And we're on.
Oh, we're back.
Yes. Wake up,
That
Steve.
went really fast. Hello, everybody. Listen, today, this second half of the show is going to be absolutely fun.
It's going to be fun?
This is Medicaid. Okay, people are so uneducated when it comes to Medicaid.
Well, we have the experts here
do
today.
we have the expert?
Yes.
So, and before we go, I want to just say this. Everybody have a wonderful and healthy week this weekend, Labor Day weekend. Stay safe. We'd like to have you here on Monday because we're back on Monday.
We are, yes.
We are. If you'd like to watch today's show, you can watch us live right now by going to www.elderlawassociates.com. And I would like to introduce the senior partner. It's his firm, the senior partner of Elder Law Associates, Howard. So nice to see you back on today.
And it's great to be here.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about Medicaid, but before we do, there's a lot of new listeners today from last month because you were on with us last month.
So tell everybody a little bit background about your law firm.
Sure. So Elder Law Associates is an elder law and special needs planning firm, which means that we work with the elderly and their families and people with disabilities to do long-term care planning, planning for disability, estate planning.
Which is very important.
Yeah. And, for some people, they don't realize how important it is until a crisis hits. But we help to do advanced planning, or even if you're in a crisis situation, we can help families out with that as well.
And you are licensed in New York as well as Florida, which is huge.
Yeah, I have an interesting background. I started my legal career in New York and came down to South Florida 9 years ago and joined my partner, Ellen Morris, who really is the true senior partner of the firm, just so you know.
Talking about litigation.
Yes, she'll be on next month talking about estate and trust litigation and fiduciary litigation. But one of the nice things about a dual admission, New York and Florida, is you have a lot of children that are in New York where the parents are down in South Florida, or vice versa.
Right, lots of snowbirds.
Snowbird issues, and they're not sure where they want to plan their estates. They're not sure where they want to receive long-term care. They're not sure how the rules differ between New York and Florida. Is there one place that I can go to get all this information? Or
Right,
do I
so
have to
this way you don't have to hire two attorneys.
That's exactly right.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
His credentials are so impressive. Tell everybody a little bit about your credentials.
You're going to make me talk about myself?
Absolutely.
Because I'm so...
Put him on the spot.
Absolutely.
Well, I think I'm really proud of something that I recently was involved in. The National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys is the largest national organization of elder law attorneys and special needs planning attorneys, and I was fortunate enough to serve as not only an officer of that organization, but I recently stepped down as its president, so I'm now the immediate past president. There's about 4,500 elder law attorneys across the country that are members of that organization, so I'm very proud of that.
I'm going to brag on you a little bit because I've got this pet peeve with attorneys. Elder law is all that you do. You don't do family law, you don't do bankruptcy law, you don't do criminal law. This is what your law firm does, is elder law.
And that's it.
Yes.
Which
frankly,
is big, yeah.
I can't even imagine that I could do more than that, particularly since I do it in 2 states, as you said. If I'm dividing my time in other areas of the law, I don't think that I could be as knowledgeable and help my clients as well as I think I can, because I have decided to focus exclusively on this area of the law. So I think it's very important.
Absolutely. You see these attorneys, they have this long row of shingles that...
It's like a boutique law firm.
Yes. And this is something, you've got to specialize in this. I mean, you have to, because just from what we did last month...
Well, it's such an important topic. I mean, there's disabled and elderly, and you have to protect everybody.
It's true. It's very true. I think you have to be careful. One of the things that you might want to look for is certification as an elder law attorney. There are a number of different certifications. I am nationally certified by the National Elder Law Foundation, which means that I do devote most of my time to elder law and special needs planning matters. You have to certify that you do that in your practice. You have to pass a rigorous exam. Other people have to support you in your application to become certified. So industry leaders have to ratify your acceptance into being a certified elder law attorney. There's also state board certification, which one can achieve. But either one of those would be helpful for a consumer to know about in searching for an elder law attorney who is experienced and who's really decided to devote their career to this area of the law.
What is there a big difference in New York law and Florida law?
Believe it or not, as many similarities as there can be, there are differences, and the mind trap is knowing where they are, where the differences lie. What you can't do is assume that because it's done this way in New York, it's done
It's
that
the same
same
way
way
here.
in Florida.
Right.
And the reason for that is Medicaid is, although it's a federal program, it's administered locally on the state level with some latitude for the states to develop their own rules within a framework developed by the federal government, which gives the states the ability to have some different rules. And we're going to talk about some of those today.
So let's just jump in. Let's talk about Medicaid. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you get turned down, so if you apply for Medicaid, can you reapply for Medicaid again once you get turned down?
You can. What I would want to know is what was the reason for the denial.
Right.
And I want to correct that before I reapplied. Obviously, if you haven't corrected the reason why you got denied in the first place, you're just going to get denied a second time. which
Right,
is
because I
pointless.
actually got turned down initially for my disabled child. And then when she turned 18, because she was eligible for Social Security, then she was eligible for Medicaid. Now, why is that? Now, if you have a disabled
Well,
child, should
because-
they automatically be eligible for Medicaid?
No, they won't automatically be eligible, and there are some deeming rules that apply for underage, for children who are not of majority age. And so what they probably did was they counted your assets and your income, and that knocked your child out of eligibility. But once they became 18 and they were on their own, your assets and income didn't count, and then they
Right, just
qualified.
has obviously no assets.
Right.
What about now? Does Medicaid cover nursing homes only, or what all does Medicaid cover?
That's a great question. Medicaid is driven largely by the types of services that you need. Some people need to get a personal aide come into their home
Does
so
that
that they can
encompass
stay
that?
at home. There are programs under Medicaid that allow an aide to come to your home. There are also programs that will pay for assisted living facilities. But there are some issues that the consumer needs to be aware of, and that is that there are wait lists for these programs. And the state legislature has to fund the program and add new slots in order for a loved one to be able to get these services. That's different than nursing homes where the coverage is mandatory. There is no wait list at all. So while you're applying for the services in the home or in the assisted living facility, you still have to have a source of income or assets to help pay for the cost of care until your name comes off the wait list. And there's no way to predict with any certainty how long is it going to be. Is it going to be 3 weeks? Is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be a year? And that can
Wow.
be aggravating and
Yeah.
very difficult to plan for. But having said that, we do have clients for whom we help get personal care services in the home or assisted living facility services. They just have to understand the ins and outs.
And you have a Medicaid professional on staff.
Well, we are very fortunate to have a gentleman who is a former Medicaid caseworker, so he knows all of the rules, all of
So
the
he's
ins
a
and outs of
specialist,
the
yes,
program.
absolutely.
He is a specialist, and he has brought his years of experience working with Medicaid to our office, and that does a number of things. It is a tremendous benefit to our clients to be able to work with somebody that knows both sides, if you will. He can put on his Medicaid hat and say, well, if we have a tricky situation, I know how Medicaid is going to perceive that. I know the best way to present it on the application.
Right, because some people try to file themselves, which is not the best idea.
They can. The law allows a person
Right, you
to
can.
obviously file on
But you
behalf
wa-
of themselves,
Right.
but I think that one of the things you have to realize is that Medicaid is a highly complex and,
It's government.
frankly,
Of course it is.
convoluted
Anything with the
government
government,
benefit
yes.
program. And the rules are not easy to understand
They
for the
change a lot since
layperson.
it is government?
They're constantly changing, and we have a pipeline in our office of new information, new rules that are coming out constantly. And suppose you applied and didn't know that there was a change in policy.
Then you
But
get denied,
What you did
right?
was now offensive to the new policy, so you got denied. Had you known that, you might have been able to shift gears and change directions and pre-plan before you applied, and then you could have avoided a denial.
In other words, don't try to do this yourself.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Go to a Medicaid professional that can help
Exactly.
you file. And what about if a person has already applied for Medicaid and is already in a nursing home? Can they do anything to save their assets?
And the answer is, believe it or not, even at that late stage in the game, you can. You can withdraw the application, and if we need to, in order to restructure assets in a way that will preserve assets and still assure eligibility for the government benefit for Medicaid. And so it's really almost never too late if there are assets that need to be preserved to do
What
some
about your
type of
house?
planning.
Do you have to sell your house?
The house is an important one because most people come to us owning a home. And for many people, it's a very substantial asset of theirs. Some people are under the misguided impression that the house is exempt from Medicaid,
It's
and
not.
therefore they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
It is true that it's a non-countable or exempt asset. So if your house is worth $200,000 or $300,000, that's not going to
So they don't
knock
take
you
that
out.
into consideration.
They won't count the value of it, but here's what I want to share with people. There are circumstances where if the house falls into your estate when you die, Medicaid can get the house. And so you have to
Wow.
do some planning to make sure that the house doesn't fall into your probate estate and that it is going to pass in a way that Medicaid will not be able to file a lien or file a claim against your
So
estate.
what do you
and get that.
do?
Well, there are a couple of different things. A revocable trust is one way that we can avoid the house going into your estate. You can also do what's called a ladybird deed here in Florida. It's like a payable on death bank account. What it means is that when you pass away, on the deed it tells the rest of the world who's supposed to get this property, and because it's allowed under Florida law, there's no probate required, and therefore without a probate, Medicaid never gets to file a claim against the estate.
So you
these are-
handle that as well?
Sure.
Okay.
So these are just some things that you want to think about. Don't just get lulled into a false sense
Right.
of security. I heard the home is not a big deal and it's exempt. That may be true, but if you have
that's
to
a
be careful
scary
planning,
thought,
and
yes.
it's with a very large asset, so you have to be very careful. The other thing is that people don't realize if you are in a nursing home and on Medicaid, who's paying for the home? Because your income has to be used towards the cost of your care. You lose your income. Well, it may cost $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a year to maintain a property. Who's paying those costs? Has anybody
There's
thought about
property
that?
taxes, there's insurance, and
So
everything else,
one
right?
of the things we counsel clients on is the consideration of whether maybe you want to sell your home and convert that into liquid assets, and then we can help do planning with the liquid assets to preserve those and still qualify for the Medicaid benefit.
You know, you said
There's a lot involved.
Yeah, you said revocable trust. Does your firm handle revocable trust?
We do. We'll talk to clients about the usefulness
Tell everybody
of
what that
a
is. A lot of
revocable
people
trust.
do not know what a revocable trust is, and I've actually heard a lot of positive things about revocable trust.
Yeah, I think what clients need to understand about a revocable trust is what it does and what it doesn't do. What it does is it avoids probate. Now, is probate so bad? We handle probate as well in my office. We don't think it is so bad. So we're not fearful of probate. A lot of people out there are. Why are
Yes.
they so fearful of probate? Well, one reason is because they hear about these cases that go on and on and on, and the beneficiaries don't get their assets. Those are things that you should talk to Ellen about next month,
Okay.
because those are the kinds of cases that
Those
she
are all
handles.
part of estate planning too.
It's part of
And
estate
that goes
planning,
into
and
litigation.
it's a part of estate litigation.
Yes.
So people read about those cases, and of course you always read about the worst case scenarios. But what about the tens of thousands of cases that are going through the probate courts that are not being
You
reported
don't hear about
on?
those.
It's because there was nothing to say about them. They went through
Exactly.
seamlessly. Now, the one thing that I can say about probate is that there is a creditor period, a time when you have to publish notice to creditors that the fact of the death, and creditors have to be given a 90-day period within which to come forward and say, I'm owed money and I want to get paid back.
So the
that
first
can cause
monies,
delay.
yeah, and the first monies would go to them, right?
And that is correct. They
Okay.
have to be paid as long as it's a valid claim against the estate. So people shy away from that, and the revocable trust might be a way to avoid having to have that delay in the distribution of assets. So one reason that people do revocable trusts is to avoid probate. Another reason they do it is for asset management while a person is incapacitated. If you're held up in a hospital, if you lose mental capacity, you're no longer able to manage your assets, it's very nice to have a trustee in place place who knows that they've been appointed and they're going to, in a very streamlined way, come in, take over the management of your assets.
Right.
So those are the two major functions of a revocable trust. But let me tell you what it doesn't do. A lot of people come into my office and they say, I already have a trust, so therefore my assets are protected and Medicaid won't count them. Is that correct? And it is not correct. A revocable trust is revocable. Medicaid will ask you to do just that, revoke it. They will count the assets in that trust. In order
So what does that mean?
It means that if you have $200,000 in a revocable trust, that $200,000, while it might avoid probate and while you might have asset management during incapacity, if you ever need to apply for Medicaid,
Will they give you
they'll
less?
count the assets.
Okay, so
and
they
you
give you
won't
less.
qualify.
Oh, you won't
Wow.
Why?
qualify.
Because you can't have
the
more
money.
than $2,000 in assets to qualify for Medicaid.
Wow.
And if you have money in a revocable trust and those are countable assets, that's a problem. You have to have what's
So you have to
called-
send the money to Sweden.
well, that
China.
won't work either. But what you do need is an irrevocable trust. Now, the problem with an irrevocable trust is that it does require that you do what's called advanced planning. You have to do it at least 5 years before you think you might need to qualify for Medicaid.
And most people don't, though, but they
Many
should.
people don't, but I have to tell you, I have a fair amount of clients. We do several of these trusts every month. I have a fair amount of clients that have either had an experience with another relative or they've read something in the newspaper, and these are your type A planner type personalities. These are people who say, you know what? I don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball. I'm going to go see a lawyer
Right,
and
but it's
talk
important.
to
It
them
really
about
is.
setting up one of these trusts.
Right.
And we help a fair number of people do this type of advanced planning, but it's much better to do that than to be in a crisis, even if we can help you in a crisis. But it's very emotional, it's very draining, and it's not the time that you want to really be dealing with these issues.
What age should people start coming to you?
Well, that's a great question and a difficult one to answer. Why? If you have your health and you don't know if or when you're going to lose your health, then you might think it could be in the 80s or 90s, right? But the reality is that there are some things that people are afflicted with in their 30s and 40s.
And
They
you
think
never
about
know, right,
multiple
exactly.
Sclerosis.
Yes.
I've had enough clients over the years where the 30s and 40s is a time to start thinking about planning. We do traditional estate planning for couples that have a couple of young children and they just want to make sure that there's guardianship in place for their younger kids if they should both die in a tragedy.
I know, and most people don't even want to think about that.
Don't
you know
want to
that.
think about it. So
they avoid
I
it.
would say that most people probably by the time they get into their 50s or 60s are starting to think about it. If you are somebody who is in your 40s, 50s, and you have parents that are elderly, I would impress upon you to talk to your parents and have the so-called conversation with them about, do we have advanced directives in place? Mom or dad, I just want to know that if anything happens to you, I'll have legal and proper decision-making authority. I want to be there for you. I want to help you out, but you have
Right.
to help me too.
Right.
If you
That's a
don't
hard
s-
thing to say
if
also,
you don't sign
right.
these documents and you leave me in the lurch like that, you're going to force me to do something called guardianship, which means I have to petition a court. I have to bring third parties into the process of an attorney is appointed to represent you, and it takes a lot of time, it costs extra money, and it drags out, and all of our family affairs are on public display in the court system. Why do we need to go through that when you could take
And the
half an
guardianship
hour?
process is no picnic in the park. That's all I'm saying. Yes, I have.
So
you don't want to have to go through that.
Proper
You're
planning
absolutely
is
right.
very,
Yes.
very important.
You know, now we got people, I can just hear them out there. We got to go see this firm. Tell everybody where you're located at.
We're located at 7284 West Palmetto Park Road. It's just west of Powerline and West Palmetto Park.
And give everyone your phone number as well.
561-750-3850.
Now, we have people all over Broward, all over Palm Beach, all over Martin County.
But their law firm covers.
Don't you have a few other
Well,
offices too?
We sure do. We stretch from the Miami area all the way up to, as you said, Martin County. Our office that is the furthest north is in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
We have an office in Weston, and we have an office in Aventura to service the Miami area.
so you don't
cover
have to
all
come
the
to local-
counties, yes.
Exactly.
And of course, our main office in Boca Raton.
Okay, so now can a person, I guess, give to a child to get below that $2,000?
And that can be a problem. when you gift assets and then you try to qualify for Medicaid, Medicaid can impose what's called a penalty period, which is a period of time when you're disqualified from receiving benefits. General rule of thumb is for every $8,000 or so that you transfer, you're disqualified from receiving Medicaid for a period of 1 month. And that
Wow.
period doesn't start until you apply for the services. So by way of example, if you transferred $80,000 as a gift to a child and you didn't apply for Medicaid for 3 years from the date of the gift, at the time that you apply for Medicaid is when you've disqualified yourself for the next 10 months.
Wow.
And if at that point you have
That's
less
crazy.
than $2,000, how are you going to pay for the needed care? If Medicaid says no, you're in a 10-month penalty period. So you have to be
they ask for
careful.
bank statements, so you can't just take the money and just filter into another bank account.
And they're allowed to go back.
Yes.
It's soon going to be a full 5 years that they're allowed to go back and ask for statements in Florida.
Wow.
That's why you need a Medicaid professional, a specialist. You
Try to
really
do
do.
this yourself.
No, you can't.
I mean, first of all, the laws are probably changing, especially with the administration here. They're probably changing on a ongoing basis.
I'm sure.
I had a question last time I forgot to ask about long-term insurance.
Tell everyone what that is.
So long-term care insurance is something that we always advise our clients to look into. And everyone really should have it. You have to understand how it works, though. Long-term care insurance, if you have it, will pay for such things as an aid in the home or an assisted living facility or even a nursing home care. However, you have to buy it when you're healthy. You cannot get
there's a
it.
catch.
You cannot get it with certain pre-existing conditions. So it is underwritten. So they do a medical review, and if you qualify medically, and if you can afford it, which is the second reason why some
Right, so
people
you should do that when you're young.
you should do it as soon as you can, and
Can
have
they
the
still
financial
apply for Medicaid
wherewithal.
then, if they
You
have that?
can, because here's an example of where it will be useful. A nursing home could cost $9,000 a month. If you have a long-term care insurance policy that pays only $150 a day, when the nursing home that you're in costs $300 a day, there's going to be a shortfall, isn't there? And so you have the long-term care insurance pay part of the cost, but you
And
have your
Medicaid-
income and Medicaid pay the rest.
Oh, okay. So when is the right time to apply for Medicaid?
When you need the services, you're not going to apply if you don't need services,
Okay.
right? If you're healthy and you don't need any services, you're probably not going to apply for Medicaid. There are some people who maybe have some recurring conditions or surgeries, and if they have less than $2,000 in assets, they can apply for what's called Community Medicaid, which means they've applied, but they're not actually receiving any services presently. However, if there should be a flare-up or a hospitalization, then the Medicaid will be in place.
So how long does it take to receive it, though, once you apply?
Once you apply, usually there's a several-month process of review by Medicaid. And
So what happens if you have to go into an assisted living facility or a nursing home and you're in the hospital? What happens to those
Okay.
that haven't applied yet for
Well,
it?
remember that for the assisted living facility, there's a wait list, and that can be a problem.
For a nursing
but
home.
if it's for a nursing
Yes.
home, they will go retroactive 3 months from the month in which you apply. So by way of example, if we were to submit a Medicaid application in September, they will go back for September, August, July, and June. 3 months prior to the month in which the application was submitted. As long as, when you ask for June eligibility, you had you met the financial guidelines, which means you had to have less than $2,000 back in June.
Right.
If you had
No, the
more
reason I'm
than $2,000
asking is because what happens if you're in the hospital and then all of a sudden something happens, God forbid, and then you have to go into a nursing home. You have
And-
to put
and
somebody into a
it
nursing
happens
home.
all the time,
Right.
and
So will
there-
the nursing home put you in that facility without being approved for the Medicaid?
There are facilities that will accept on what's called a Medicaid pending basis, but you have to be careful, and this is a really good question. You have to be in what's called a Medicaid certified bed. Some beds are certified for Medicaid and some are not. And it's in the
You're kidding
facility's
me.
discretion. So if you don't have this discussion,
So what does that mean?
well, here's how it usually works. When somebody goes into the hospital first, as long as they've had a 3-day consecutive stay in the hospital, and when they go to the nursing home, they need what's called skilled nursing care as opposed to custodial care, which is a lower level, they can qualify for Medicare benefits. And most people have Medicare in place when they turn 65. So Medicare covers up to the first 100 days. So that's
okay.
kind of like a gap period where most people have coverage. Then, after that, day 101, they're going to be looking to see if you have a long-term care insurance policy. If you don't, they're going to be asking you for your private assets, and if you don't, they're going to be looking to apply for Medicaid.
Right.
Now, if you are thinking ahead, during that Medicare coverage period of 100 days, that's when you should apply, because you're in the nursing home and you know you may have the need. You can apply then.
You know, it's amazing because, Linda Harmon over here is with probably one of the most prestigious assisted living centers, and she's like shaking her head the whole show because she knows about a lot of this. So
Yes.
that tells me that we got one of the best companies. Give everybody your phone number again.
And your website as well.
Yeah, let's give it, because you got a wonderful website.
Thank you. So our phone number is 561-750-3850, and our website is www.elderlawassociates.com, all spelled out.
Let's talk about Blueprint, Les, because it's one of the seminars you're going to be doing.
Sure. So every year, our firm hosts an elder law forum, which is designed to give professionals an opportunity to learn about what's going on in the area of elder law and special needs planning.
Assisted living, home care.
Assisted living, anybody who works in an assisted living facility, a home care agency, a nursing home, so any type of healthcare professional, social workers, anybody who serves as professional guardian, financial planners, accountants, lawyers, physicians, care managers, hospice agencies could all benefit, and it's, aside from being a very substantive educational event, it's also a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to network with other professionals, and it's being held on November 12th, Wednesday, November 12th, and we have a featured guest speaker, Senator Eleanor Sobel,
Okay.
who will kick off our event, and it'll be held in Pompano Beach.
And for more information, you could go to their website, because we just got our 1 minute,
Okay.
we have like 30-second warning.
So, and this is from 8 to noon. So this is something, if you're in that business, that you would definitely want. This is your 6th annual. How? I don't know why
Time
it
just
always goes by
flew.
so
It
fast.
did.
Too fast.
We're going to be on next month. We're going to have Ellen on next month, your partner. We're going to talk about litigation.
Perfect.
There is so much to know about Medicaid. Don't try to do this yourself, please.
Absolutely not.
Please. And we'll see you Monday. We've got our addiction show on. We've also got a public adjuster, an attorney coming on Monday from 4 to 5. Have a wonderful weekend.
Have a
Stay
safe weekend.
God bless everybody. Peace and love.
We're out.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show with Steve-O and Renee. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed on the preceding